Hello, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So today I have a special guest. She was assisting at a 5-day myosomatic seminar that I went to. It's actually like a little training certification thing, and I was just sort of taken back by her energy, her compassion, and then her skill set that very humbly and slowly started to come out as she hopped in when she was needed. And so her name is Margaret Sarmiento. Margaret is the owner of Turiya Healing Work, LLC, serving in Hampton, New Jersey. She's a 500-hour certified Shivananda yoga teacher and trained in Ayurveda. And she's a certified Ayurvedic health counselor and body worker. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Margaret.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Erin. This is exciting. Anytime I get to talk about yoga, Ayurveda, healing work, body work, I'm in.
I know it's like, don't threaten me with a good time. Like, let's.
Yeah. Love it.
The first thing that like kind of struck me as far as like, oh, like who's this woman, this beautiful woman that is also part of our training, and with Mr. Daniel James, that you're very like compassionate, and the kind of compassion of someone who is very accepting, loving, and usually people like that have a backstory. And so I guess maybe because my listeners might not know exactly who you are, even though I rattled off your credentials, maybe you can just share a little bit about your journey because, you're a certified yoga teacher, you're an Ayurvedic practitioner, you do body work, like all these different things and modalities. And I find that usually when people have those credentialings, they have their own story behind it. So I'd love everybody to kind of know, and for me to learn a little bit more about your backstory, about what brought you to have so many healing arts underneath your belt.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, and recently just got my massage license finally. So I am licensed LMT here in New Jersey. And that was a long time coming because I've been practicing Ayurveda body work for over 15 years. I started my journey with Ayurveda in my mid 20s, and I started my journey with yoga in my early 20s. I remember the first time I was exposed to yoga, I found some DVD I was in college, and there was a DVD upside down on the floor, and I picked it up, and it was like yoga, and the girl was just like, go ahead, you have it. And so I started practicing yoga in my college dorm, and then eventually started practicing at a studio. And at the time I was working at a garden center, which I love being outside and being physical. And but I decided to take a yoga vacation, and so I did, and I went to Shivananda Yoga Ashram for a week. In
Not located.
It was that the ashram that I went to, they have locations all around the world, Shivananda, but it was in Woodburn, New York. So the upstate New York, it's the Yoga Ranch. It's like my home. And I fell in love when I was there. And it was very quiet that time of year. I think it was in February. And so I decided to go back for the training that fall. And I quit my job and I stayed for 30 days. It's a immersion course. So you're there living, eating, breathing yoga. And I was in my element. I was so happy, and I love to be pushed. So it was intense, but we were learning and we were practicing, and it was just taking, and in the beautiful land that is the Catskill Mountains as well. So really
So
supportive
beautiful. People think of New York, they
mountain.
don't necessarily think of that, but like I know that where you're talking about. It is very beautiful.
Yes, gorgeous. So, and my journey to Ayurveda began there because in Ayurveda, we love to talk about bowel movements, just so you know. So this is like
Yeah.
very clear what was happening to me in the yoga training. You're doing a lot of meditation, breath work, pranayam, and sitting a lot as well. So I went from like being super active in my job to like sitting and doing yoga, which also brings the energy up, right? So we're talking about Udana Vayu was very enhanced. And then my Apana Vayu wasn't working very well. So I was constipated for like a week, and they had the Ayurvedic practitioner on site. So I went to go see her, and she helped me with that. I had the full Ayurvedic consultation, and she gave me some triphala, and I had a bowel movement, and I was like, I'm hooked. What just happened? Like, because all of a sudden I felt more grounded. I felt better. That was more spacious. And that kind of got me. And she actually invited me to come down to the Bahamas to their yoga retreat at the Shivananda ashram to go do their Ayurvedic bodywork course. And, after my 30-day training, I was like, I don't know what to do next. I really didn't have anything set up, so why not? Right? Why not? And I remember I was driving down 287 back home to New Jersey, and I had my sunroof open, and this little piece of paper flew in my sunroof and it landed on my dashboard. And it was just like a set of numbers, maybe like 5 or 6 numbers. I didn't know what that code was, but something was just told me, and I got on the phone and I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll come, I'll come do the course. And that course blew me open.
Mm.
2 weeks of Abhyanga, Shirodhara, learning the depths of Ayurveda, the philosophy, and the wisdom. And that was like on the tail end of this 30-day immersion.
You're already kind of open and prepped to receive.
And then you're on the beach, you're in Paradise Island, and you have the ocean, and I'm living in a tent, in the sand. And um, that was really where everything opened up for me. I had some kind of very deep spiritual experiences. The type of experience, I'll say one that I was on the beach, running on the beach, and I stopped and stood in the water. And suddenly I'm no longer standing in the water. I am the water. There was no boundary between myself and the water. I was just the water. And these Ayurvedic treatments, they open up the bliss body. They open up all the koshas for you to have these oneness experiences. And that's what I had. So this was my path. It was like, it was very clear to that moment, this was my dharma. So I have followed that and I've chased that really since then, since that moment.
Was that your awakening? Was that like the first time you had had one of those experiences?
So I would say no. I had traveled to Costa Rica, um, and I had some experiences on the beach in the water there as well. Double rainbows, just full bliss experiences of like, wow, like just in awe of what is this earth and being a human, and just having that feeling in sync with nature. And
Mm.
around age 9, I had an experience where I was just sitting in the classroom and realized I was here, like had the full moment of, oh, I'm in a body and I'm here. And it was like a trance. So I
Mm.
could like put myself into a trance. And that was very interesting. I still can't really make sense of that, really, just that I had this ability to hyper focus and go really deep, penetrating into something and control my thought waves or something. So I don't know. I just kind of like,
It sounds like the upper limbs of yoga, the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi is what you experience in alignment with the first three yoga sutras, Atha Yoga Nushasanam, Yoga Chitta Vritti, Nirodha Taratrashti Swarupe Vastanam. It's like amazing coming into presence is such like a big like it's blissful and everyone's so afraid of it and we're distracting ourselves all the time and people like phone addiction and all kinds of stuff like that to kind of pull us away because of like that fear, but it's like when we really embrace it and drop in and have compassion around it, then it just like you said, like it blows you open and it just sort of like led your path. I mean, that's a good incentive, like feeling bliss. Your body's like, hey, yes, I like this, please more.
yes, this is your true nature. Here it is. And it did. It opened up a lot of pathways for me. And, that doesn't mean that I'm not susceptible to distraction because, as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's like I've been through a lot of fire
Mm.
during and throughout and since then. So
Yeah, it's important. I think that no one's above the practices, and it's like if you really want to embrace the spiritual path, having practices put into place, whether it's, yoga or, abhyanga, which is like the therapeutic massage that they do in Ayurveda, and meditation and massage, is also very grounding. And if we don't have those practices put in place, I've met people, and probably you have too, that they'll have these like big experiences, maybe involving like psychedelics, stuff like that. And then like they get attached rather than the present moment, they get attached to the thing. They're like, oh, how do I recreate that? Oh, well, it must be this thing outside of myself that is causing this bliss, not like me, you know?
Mm. Oh yeah. And I spent a lot of time throughout my married life going back into householder life after having had 3 years of living in an ashram, always looking back at that moment, comparing myself to that yogi, to that person that I was then. And it was difficult to hold this kind of paradox of what I was living as a householder to, this perfect disciplined yogi. But I will say also that I was able to have those experiences because of the container I was provided, because of these ancient practices, because I was waking up, at dawn, meditating, doing yoga, listening to the teachers, doing the practices. I got pushed right into doing body work and seeing clients. So I was living, breathing, and I was contained in a very safe environment to have that. And I also had teachers there where I explained what I was going through. I didn't know. I wasn't like, hey, teach, I just had a samadhi experience. Like she was like, this is what's happening to you. And she, held me through that. And like, thank God for that. I'm so, so grateful that I was, really held by my mentor. And I had someone that was walking next to me, that I could be supported by. So I'm so grateful to Lalita Devi and the Shivananda Ashram and my teachers for that.
It's yeah, having spiritual community when we're going through these big experiences, because it's so out of the realm of the logical mind that the average person, they might not be able to hold space for, or even relate or connect, validate any of that. And then on the opposite side, kind of think that you're a little crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. Oh, I went home and everyone thought I was nuts because I tried to explain what I had gone through and like any other person who's had a spiritual awakening, they say, well, you need to do this and then you have to, do all these things and you try to change the people around or help, right? The people around you, you go home. For me, it was like going home to the regular daily, and we'll talk about recovery and, my recovery from it in alcoholism is like going home to the drinking life. And it's like, do I beat him or do I join him? And, it's just like such a swing of the pendulum, which, we speak about kind of my nature as being, I'm very scorpionic. So I have been through a lot of transformation and deaths, rebirth cycles. And then I have a Leo rising. So I'm very like full spectrum, which is kind of intense. So it's like how I'm learning to really navigate who I am and through my practice now, through my business now, and through the somatic body work, which has just felt like a coming home and a kind of a full circle experience.
yeah, I mean, what you were definitely meant to be there when we had the training in St. Pete. It's just like just with your presence, like I said, it's like you can kind of like sniff each other out, like the spiritual people who have been on the path a while. There's a certain vibe, a certain frequency and energy, and I could feel that from you. And those 5 days together of laying hands and feeling like, the essentially the pulsation of life through people, along with the education, and people were sharing, going through different experiences. We had like a little moment there where, and I want to touch on this and then I want to move into the recovery piece, but like I just get curious about patterns. It's like, there's like geometrical patterns everywhere, fascia, it's like all connected. And then, when I sniffed out that you were like an Ayurvedic practitioner, I was like, oh, like my tail's like waggling internally. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think about the pulsation of the like cerebral spinal fluid, like the pulsation of the brain, and then like the pulses in Ayurveda? And I just like you. I don't, from my perspective, you kind of were like, oh, like, huh. Like you got very curious and inquisitive with like a sort of affection for spiritual practices that I have. And so I was like, oh, and I'm not even sure if you gave me like a straight answer, but you just seem so curious about it in the way that I am. And so I guess because you're an Ayurvedic practitioner and you're a body worker and many other things, like how specifically at Ayurveda and like the myosomatic body work, like how do you see that like playing off of each other in different ways? Because that to me is fascinating.
Yes. And so the pulse and the cerebral spinal fluid. And then you mentioned the sacred geometry
Yeah.
and the plasma. And I remember you sharing in class about your experience with the plasma or the pulsation of life, of just being in a park, walking in a park, and
Oh yeah, yes.
feeling the breath of life and the pulsation of life. And I too, I even in the garden center, I had here, you reminded me of a time when I walked into a room in the greenhouse where I saw all the hydrangea breathing. They were just all moving. And it was like this wild experience. And I hadn't even gone on my yoga, journey yet, but where that pulsation is in everyday life, it's everywhere, and the sacred geometry is everywhere. And when we're in that space where we've dropped out of beta and we're dropping more into like a theta state, and we're in rest and digest, and we're just a witness and an observer, this plasma, this sacred geometry, this pulsation starts to bloom and blossom. And it's like that's where I go when we're on the table, and when I'm in the cerebral spinal fluid. And so your question really got me to get curious about, what does that mean? What are the wisdom I can bring about my touch? Because I have gone deeper into the pulse as well. It's not something I use typically in my work, but I went recently to Asheville to do another pulse reading course with Dr. Ladd. And it just really fine-tunes that touch, right? We get real subtle into the touch. And what I can take from that is I can feel a quality about the pulsation. There's a quality to the rhythm, right? So is it hard and grinding? Is it quick? And is it sharp angles? Is it smooth and flowing? Is there a heat or a coolness to the water and to the flow? And so I can get a lot of information about someone's dosha or what dosha is at play based on the quality of the rhythm.
Mm. Yeah, that's I remember when I was getting my dosha, sort of like the Prakriti and Vikriti. I think I'm saying it correctly. And like my friend Molly, who I had on the podcast a year or two ago, who I met in India, she was like an instant like soul sister, and she like kind of loosely showed me how to do it, and the amount of like sensitivity that you have to have in your fingertips, like the wisdom, like it is out of the realm of the mind. It is totally in the wisdom of the body. And then beyond that, there's like subtle layers that you have to be able to like feel. And, in that 5 day training, so for transparency, the body work that I've done for many years is like I can read people, I do a postural analysis, I can tell the tension patterns, and I kind of get in there like kind of aggressively. I have people breathe and connect. I have my ways of getting in there, and it's been very effective. I've made a really good living at it. So going from that to like the like very subtle touch was like the first day or two, definitely. I was hanging out with one other gal who like she has a similar regular style to me. I was like, oh gosh, I just wanted to go back to to like me, I guess, trying to fix someone, which is
Mhm.
that's an old pattern of mine, which rears in sometimes, but like it when I finally surrendered to him, like, listen, all right, I'm here to take this course, like I'm here to learn, like let me be a good student. And it was, yeah, just like amazing how I started feeling like the fluid move and started like I can usually sense people's emotions, but like I started feeling like the subtleties is sort of like, you know, I was bulimic for 12 years. And I remember having gone through that. It was like when I was healing from that, I had completely disrupted my hunger signals. And I would either feel like starving all of a sudden or like super full. Like there was no in between.
Mm.
And by training myself and being very, very compassionate and patient, I was able to start noticing different levels of hunger. You know, it's just like, oh, I'm a little bit hungry. I'm a touch. I should probably eat soon, you know, and then eating like slower and tuning into myself rather than using it as a drug and like noticing, okay, like, if I eat more than this, I'm probably going to be uncomfortable. And then, you know, rather than go from one pendulum to the other. And with the body work, even just in that short span of time, I started noticing more sensitivity, which was like fascinating to me because that's like, you know, the love is in the details.
Mm.
And so that brings me back to like the recovery portion as far as like, you know, your journey. So you mentioned that you had an issue with alcohol and like, you know, I'm very curious about like the spiritual path, like how that assisted you in helping you like become this sort of like divine person that you are.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm so intrigued by the way that you said how really you had to step back out of like your old ways, right? We had to form new neural pathways and that, okay, I want to do it the way I always do it because there's a part of us that wants to show that we're the healer too, or whatever the thing is, right? Whatever the thought, or I'm going to fix. And so stepping back, like how beautiful is that to have the humility to step back and say, no, I'm going to learn, I'm going to come to this with a beginner's mind and then really get the experience of that because every day when I come and I meet a new body or a client gets on the table, it's always about that stepping back. How much more can I listen? How much more can I get out of the driver's seat? How much more can I tune into the little the sensation of hunger or right on the table of is there resistance here? You know, do we need to take a deep breath? Just really being with what is humbles me every day because I don't know and I can't fix. And all I'm here to do is follow the rhythm of the person's body and serve as like this biofeedback tool for them to have an experience about their own body and start to tune into their own body's wisdom and make that mind body connection. Because, like with ED, right, an eating disorder or an addiction, which is very similar to alcoholism, addiction of any kind, um, we lose that mind body connection because actually, in my experience, it was all about not being connected to my body. I was like, how do I turn this sensitivity off? How do I make this stop? Because I don't want to feel. And so I've gone from that not wanting to feel anything and then wanting to feel a lot and not knowing how to get in that sweet spot in between where I can manage when I don't necessarily like what I'm feeling, how can I be with that? And then when I want to escape, how can I be with that? And so it's like just this journey, this dance with myself of finding that balance point of that this pendulum can stop swinging because I was getting dizzy. It was too much, too fast. And part of me liked that. Liked the adrenaline, it liked the dopamine, it liked the whole big roller coaster ride. But kind of where I've arrived in my life now, it does not serve me. And, you know, I'm very grateful for my journey of recovery from alcoholism and with alcoholism and other external things that I reach to because we can just bring it down to, the phone or a person or food or anything like cannabis, psychedelics. So part of my recovery journey was finding therapeutic psychedelics and healing circle. And I got to this psychedelic therapy, and I would do these journeys. I was at the time still using alcohol, but after a few journeys, I started to get really curious about my relationship with alcohol and how I always knew it was a problem. Okay. Because I really believe that I was born an alcoholic. I have 5 planets in Scorpio in my fourth house. I am here to transcend a generational pattern. Generational, I'm here to do this ancestral work. So I came in, I knew that this was a thing, right? And I can look back and see all the pattern of the alcoholism in my family, both sides of my family. And so, yeah, psychedelics led me to AA. It led me to the 12 steps of recovery. So I'm so grateful for that because I was able to let go of alcohol. I remember it was like the night before one of the psychedelic journeys, and I was able to wean myself off of alcohol up to that point.
So
And
what's that there?
yes,
An awareness, a curiosity. And speaking of curiosity, I'm curious, like what kinds of psychedelics were used, if you don't mind sharing, if that's okay.
oh yeah. So it's undisclosed. It's called Armand's medicine.
Armands. Okay.
Yes, it's Armand's sacred. Um, I don't know how to say the word. It's but so it's his own. It's a Peruvian lineage. I don't know much about it. It's very secretive.
Ah, okay. Because I'm wondering, like, oh, was it? I'm forgetting the name of it now. The in Peru they do
Oh, ayahuasca?
ayahuasca. Yeah.
No, no, it's not ayahuasca. It's some sort of extraction. It's its own. It's a proprietary blend
Okay.
of psychedelic herbs, and there's it's many different compounds to make this Armand's medicine, and they call it journey medicine or journeying. And so I was so grateful to have a safe space to have that experience in a very sacred setting. It was made very sacred.
Right.
And it took me a long time to learn how to navigate that medicine. But like I said, yeah, it brought me back. And so later on, after experimenting a little bit on my own with psychedelics outside of that, of course, because I'm an alcoholic, right? Like, oh, I need to go, now I need to go do this all the time.
Yeah.
It was similar to like an MDMA and psilocybin kind of combination. So if you can imagine what that felt, it feels like that the medicine was very similar to that, although there were different types of medicines depending on if we were like more heart opening, mind medicine, body medicine. So there's different kind of combinations depending on where someone was at. But it was secretive. It
Yeah.
was quiet.
Very like esoteric and mysterious.
Yeah, like you didn't know what you were getting. And there was a lot of trust in that. There was a
Yeah.
lot of trust in the container and the facilitator, and it's beautiful. Um,
So you went from this space of, being addicted to substance, and then you went through this journey of sort of peeling off these layers. And one of the first things that happened for you is you got curious about, what maybe drove you in those moments to alcohol. Like, what did that journey look like? Because you are a person who is able to verbalize subtleties a bit because you feel them and you understand them and you know them. And I think it can be very helpful for any of my listeners who are, curious about or maybe like going through something like that. Like, did it start to appear, okay, first awareness and curiosity, like pausing, noticing like a particular emotion coming up that you're resisting, like what did some of those subtleties look like for you?
so going on this somatic journey, which I didn't know was somatic the whole time, right? Like yoga is somatic, moving your body is somatic, breathing is somatic, right? Um, so how I started to heal my relationship with wanting to escape the moment with whatever thing was the pause. So it's all about the pause. How can I be present in this moment? And usually that's with the breath. So in meditation, Vipassana meditations really, go back to the breath, come back to the present moment, no judgment, just be here now. And one of my favorite sayings is be where your feet are, right? So that's the pause. If you can get the pause, you can do anything, really, because it's all about present moment awareness. Because once I'm present, then I have sovereignty. I can make a choice about what my next move is,
Mhm.
right? So typically pause and pray. So pray to your higher power, pray to source, love, Jesus, Mary, whoever, Buddha, whoever that is for you, Lakshmi, um, and connect to that power, right?
Mm.
The power that's greater than me, the power that's greater than my ego that wants to drink and wants to escape, but the essence that lives within me, right? So for me, my disease was all about the God-sized hole that lived in me, that lived in my belly. So how could I fill that God-sized hole, right? I learned to fill it with God, not alcohol, not mushrooms, not cannabis, not another person, right? Me, the
Mm.
true essence of God, of love, of source, and beginning to, and that's what I love recovery, okay? Because recovery brought God to me, brought God to a place where I could have a personal and intimate relationship with that.
Mm.
And where yoga blasted me open, and I was like, hey, I'm one with all things. Well, how do I use I don't know how to use that. I don't know how to have benefit, right? It was more like a high, another high. So
Right.
then, okay, now I know I'm one with all things. Now I know I am love. I am source. I am the God spark. So then now I can pray and I can start to build that relationship with my higher power. So for me, pause and pray. Get where your feet are. Take a deep breath. What do I need? What do I need right now? What do I really need? Maybe I just need to go to sleep. Maybe I
Yeah,
take a nap.
asking, I'm huge into, and there's I think it's a couple of years ago when I was really studying Marshall Rosenberg's work of nonviolent communication and needs, and became aware of deeper needs that I had, and then like got very fascinated with it as far as like shadow work and inner child work, and like sometimes these things come up because there's so many unmet needs, and then it's like I went through a phase where I was like, okay, well, other people are going to meet my needs. And then I was like, oh, wait, I might be doing that wrong. Like, it's just sort of experimenting. I started like very probably over verbalizing my needs to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, but you need to have abeyance and you need to, if you're in a group setting, it's not like me, 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 me. So
Mhm.
it's like, I love hearing your journey as far as like the pause, the prayer, the, connection with higher source and like, also building relationship. It's like relationship with ourself, relationship with the present moment, helps us to then skillfully, hopefully, navigate life because there are, fluctuations, there's curveballs, there's variables, when my mother passed away a couple years ago, it was like, um, it just felt like life went off script. Like I didn't plan any of that. My ego was like, that's not supposed to happen. And it's like, when we have big things like that happen, and some people in the world have things like that happen like somewhat regularly, it's like, what does one do? There is such a huge compulsion to escape because it's just the intensity of it, and like leaving our body, having this sort of like a tear in our source. Um, One thing about you that like I think it was like one of the first things that I noticed was like you had this like air of compassion
Mhm.
about you. And I know that your journey has you've sort of developed yourself with your practices and experiences into the person that you are. But like, did you start that way? Because for me, compassion, I was like in full contact sports and martial arts. Compassion, like I literally had to, I was like, I don't know what that is. And I I had to like figure it out and like hear examples and like, be around. That's when I was like doing the seeking out like very nurturing mother figures. When I told you earlier, I was went through that phase, and I was looking for compassion. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, is that something that you were lucky enough to have like in the background, or is that something that you also had to find?
So it's bringing me to a memory. I was quite young, maybe fourth grade. I was writing, I think we were supposed to write something about ourselves or write words to describe ourselves. And I wrote compassionate. And
Mhm.
when my teacher came over, she was like, "Well, do you know what compassionate means?" Like, I don't know that you like questioned, like full on, like, you don't know what compassionate means. How could you be compassionate?
Mhm.
So I seem to think that there was a seed of compassion planted maybe before I came in. Um, because of that, like I'll never forget that I wrote that on the paper. And I was kind of like a wild child. My mom was my father was absent. My mom was working three jobs. I kind of ran the show. And so I was did a lot of my own navigating in the world. And I know that I was a very observant kid, and but I was navigating a lot of that stuff on my own. I was athlete, a college athlete as well. I played college basketball,
Ah.
through javelin, and I was super active, and but I struggled. I really struggled with the team thing. Like I struggled feeling like didn't always fit in. I always felt like I was kind of outside myself. Like you said, like some people leave their body. I always kind of felt like I was hanging out outside myself. I wasn't really fully here. And it really only dawned on me until I started working with clients that I am above myself, watching myself have this conversation. I'm actually not fully present. And it was like in that moment where I would start to try to connect more with the person. And I also had this thing where I would really struggle listening to words coming out of people's mouths. So I think it's because I could hear an underlying story in their body, and I couldn't hear that, and when it wouldn't match up with the words in their mouth, I had a really hard time listening and like translating that information I was getting from them to words. And you probably know, like a lot of us live in this kind of paradox, or we live in this separation from our true selves, separation from our authenticity. So a lot of times what we say is, I'm fine. I'm great. This is what's happening in my life. And, or even a story of woe is me. This has happened to me, and going down a story of victimization, right? Either way, whatever the thing was, if it wasn't matching up with their vibration and what I was getting from their body, I had a very hard time. So I think only really in the last few years where I've been able to come here, where I'm here, and I practice coming here and fully present and fully listening. And now I think I'm better at juggling. Better at juggling I hear what your body's saying and I hear what your mouth is saying. And then I also hear something else over here, but and especially on the table, it's like the all the feels, all the things, all the information. So I think, I think there were karmic seeds, of compassion, of love, of these kind of extra sensory feels, because like that compassion is kind of the highest form, right, of the heart. It's
Yeah.
to have that compassion, which is like, I feel so honored that you feel that from me.
Do. I know it because I've worked hard to cultivate it in myself. And it's like I don't know, I was drawn to it. It felt very safe, like you're the perfect person to have been, like I said, in that training, like you were meant to be there. And I think that's a probably superpower of yours, whether I mean, you probably know it, but sometimes it's nice to hear somebody else see it and say it because being seen is lovely.
Thank
And I had to go seeking that out and like mentors and such. And then I remember I read I was literally like looking up articles and like, what does compassion look like? And there was a story, and it just, I don't know why this particular story hit me. There was this woman who was like she had like a kid in a stroller and then like her like 2-year old that was just like not having any of it. And they were in a supermarket and just crying. She's dragging the toddler, pushing the stroller, just trying to buy groceries and do a simple thing in her life. And she went in the bathroom and she just closed this door and she started crying. The kid's screaming. Now the baby in the stroller is screaming. And she's just like was about to lose it. And there was like this voice that started up in her head, maybe out of desperation, that was like, hey, like this is really hard what you're going through. It's tough.
Mm.
But you're here and you're trying. And like take some deep breaths. Like you can do this. This is hard stuff. And reading that for some reason, that particular story just resonated with me so much. And I was like, oh, it's changing that inner dialogue to like be accepting of the moment, but not necessarily coddling. And I think that's for me, to share a little bit from my story, it's like that's one reason because my mom was kind of she was bipolar, she was very absent. I was also very much on my own. I was a feral Erin.
Mhm.
And um just like hearing that level of compassion expressed with that woman, like the narration, like I never had that. And so I had to have like a sample of that. And so I do believe that like I can see it, I can feel it, like you had like a seed of compassion, but and that was we all have like little gifts, right? And like you're just like have grown so much and like made so much of it and like walk through your own fire of like addiction and I'm sure everybody has like traumas, like and like look at the healer that you are today, like and you're not you don't stop learning, like you're gaining all these different tools and like for those of you who are listening right now, whether on YouTube or clips on Instagram or Spotify or iTunes, like if you follow Margaret, it's Margaret Goodspeed. And then do you have a page for Turiya?
I don't. So on my Instagram, it's ever underscore unfolding underscore me.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's so when you're talking about the compassion piece, becoming a mother was huge. I have 3 daughters. So, and they're very different. So it's like when I felt the love and I was bringing that motherly energy to my children, somehow I was able to bring that voice, that mother voice to myself. And that's really that reparenting part of it, right? Is like, okay, I'm going to use this mother voice with myself now because I realized there was a punisher in there. She was not nice, right? And it was the voice of all the coaches, of all the male coaches I had throughout my, sports career of like, the soldier, like do the thing. And now it's like, oh, I can just like, it's okay. It's okay, babe. It's okay, babe. And we're still gonna do it. Like, or, I hear you, I feel you. And oh, yeah,
And still
now
show.
we're gonna keep going. So I'm gonna be with you for this thing. And it's tough because being a mom, you're trying to do all the things, cook the dinner, do the dishes, and you want to be compassionate and just snuggle your babies, but there's so much to do. So it's like, oh, so being with them, pausing, and now I've like done the same for myself and like reparenting that my own inner child. So she doesn't have to feel like she always has to be in fight or flight or doing or being the best or whatever the thing is. And that's been such a healing tool for me. So
That's thank you for sharing that. And that's so beautiful. And I'm curious for our listeners who might want to like reach out to you that resonate with your story. So you do online Ayurvedic consults?
yeah, yeah, I can do virtual Ayurvedic consultation, and then I'm doing body work in person, obviously.
Yeah, that's one.
I'll be traveling with Daniel again when we're in New York in June. And we are going to start, well, not Daniel and I, but I have another thing happening where we're going to start building up some wellness retreats here nearby in New Jersey. So if you follow me and you want to get in on like restorative yoga, body work, and then trainings, and eventually Daniel, we're hoping for next year for him to come out to New Jersey and hold the training here as well. And a little further down the line, maybe some of my own bodywork training coming up. So
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's going to be phenomenal,
Thank
especially with
you.
your energy and presence and
Thank you.
knowledge of yoga and Ayurveda, and then of course, your life experience. I think that um, makes a full and rich practitioner, and someone who is um, vulnerable and like shares of themselves. I think
Mm,
that there's some teachers that they just have this professional air, which that's fine and that's valuable. But I think that there's something really, really special about people who have, they teach and they share, but they also share of themselves and that they're comfortable with and compassionate enough their own vulnerability. Because
mm,
from my experience in my circles and trainings and certifications that I've led, it's like vulnerability begets vulnerability. And then people say, oh, this is a safe space. Oh, I can talk about these things that I'm bursting at the seams and I might need to, either express or just connect with someone. Like this is a safe space, and I'm not going to be judged and my emotions are okay too. Like
mm,
that can be very powerful. It's like, it's almost, you're talking about reparenting as a teacher figure. Sometimes people, even mildly, because there's different layers to this, like project a little bit of that, like you're the authority figure, and they might like
mm,
me and daddy just a tiny bit. And so, like, modeling that for our students can be very, very powerful, I think.
I appreciate that so much because I've had teachers where I feel like, man, I wish they just would have shared a little bit more with me because we are moving out of this paradigm, okay? And I'll talk about the framework and how I'm kind of reframing the body work and how I work with people. It's like if if I don't share about my human experience, you may forget that I'm human. You may only see the Leo that I project out as confident and capable, but you don't get to see the stellium and Scorpio who's been through hell. So I need to tell you about that and remind you about that I'm human skin too. And it's so helpful, right, to share. I feel it's really humbling to share. And also like, hey, like I hear what you're going through and I'm not here to fix you, but this is how I walked through that fire. And if you can take any seeds of wisdom from that, from my path, please take them with you, and plant them in your own garden. Take them and change them and mix it up however you need to. But if my story can help another person on theirs, then I'm all for it. But I think we're done putting people on a pedestal. We're done putting gurus, teachers up on a pedestal because we're walking shoulder to shoulder. We're all human. We're all on this earth plane. We're doing this thing together. So I think to even the playing field, and this is what I do in my body work, is reframing this. I'm the practitioner, you're the client, and there's a power dynamic. No, okay, you're on the table, and this is your experience, and I'm here to create a container to support you in your experience. And actually, your needs are so, so important to me. And I would prefer you tell me that it's too cold in here, Margaret, turn up the heat or give me a blanket, or I hate this music. Can we change the music? Like, or, that doesn't feel good right now. Like, thank you. Thank you for telling me that, because I want you to walk out of here more empowered. Because in the end, when you say that thing to me in this safe container, you can go out there and say when you don't like something. And you can use your voice, right, and empower yourself. And that's what we do is we enhance that mind body connection on the table. You take it out into the world and you integrate the lessons that you learn on the table here. And I'm just a guide. I'm just, like I like to say, like I'm the bumpers in the bowling alley. Like I'm just here to, be next to you and say, hey, look over there, or what about this, or and I'm just here to be with you in this journey. And ultimately, you're the authority. You're sovereign. Some of us have forgotten, and we just need to be reminded.
Yeah, remember, bring the members back together, right?
Yes.
Um, yeah, I feel like I could talk about this for hours with
Yeah.
you. The importance of uh sincerely creating a safe space for people to speak up, especially if they've had experiences where their voice didn't matter or there was not safety. I was just working on somebody today, one of my students, and again, my usual style of body work is like kind of deep. It's compassionate, but it's like I kind of go deep, and it works for me and it's effective. And I said, like, listen, you can always use your voice. Like, I'm here. I was like, we're a team. We're working together. I'm here, I'm pressing and whatnot, but like you are included and I always say things like your voice is important because it's important for us to hear that. I mean, I could take it a little bit into like as women for sure, because playing the good girl all the time, but like men also have their struggles as far as like, stuff it down and hold it in and boys don't cry, right? So I look at it, we all have different flavors of the things that we've been taught that we have to unlearn, deprogram, and then hopefully have people, teachers in our lives, friends that can hold containers and provide safe space as we learn how to do it for ourselves. So, but sometimes it is very powerful to have it modeled. And then to, yeah, make it a regular thing to be around people who are vulnerable, who are comfortable and going inward and feeling their feelings. And, it's just like I had an experience, again, it's slightly off topic, but like yesterday, I was around like my really good friend Sully and my really good friend Lisa, who actually, from the training, she's staying with me for a couple of days. She's awesome.
Nice.
And we were just like vibing. And I have a mantra album that's coming out, like an EP. And one thing led to another. And we ended up at this place at an open mic. And then I'm performing like songs from my album. And I'm convinced that it was like the little vortex that I created with having my friend Sully, who's also been on this podcast. And he's an amazing spiritual teacher. And then Lisa, who embodies a lot of this stuff and just created like this manifestation vortex or something. And this guy's like, I need your music. I need you to play at my ecstatic dances. I need you to come to this festival and perform. And I'm like, what?
Yes. Yes.
So amazing.
Yes. I
Uh,
love that. Yes, because we're magnets. We become the more authentic, right? The closer we become to expressing our trueness, our true voice, and just being the thing, like you said, embodying the thing, we magnetize more people into our field and we magnetize what's really meant for us. And then that even continues to bloom and we continue to bloom. I mean, what a gift. I love that synchronicity and just having that come into your field for you like that. And what a blessing.
yeah, so it's important that we keep in touch, and it's been an honor to interview you, just to like learn about your story, and then hear about your offerings upcoming. That's very exciting. I definitely want to stay in the loop on that. So if people want to reach out to you, you have an personal Instagram that they could follow, or one for your business. What's your website? Like, how can people find you and reach out?
Yeah, the best way is on Facebook and Instagram. So maybe we can put that in the show notes. I'll
Yeah,
share
we'll put
that
it in
with
the
you,
show
of
notes for
course.
sure.
And yeah, we did a kitchery making workshop online, which was really fun. I'm doing that with a goddess group, a women's group, and then we're also going to
But
be
ghee
making
making, right?
ghee is coming up, so I get to really talk more about Ayurveda, the gunas and the doshas, and how that all plays. We're going to be talking about, the qualities of ghee and also the practice of self-abhyanga, self-massage, and self-love. And that was a huge practice, by the way, that got me through, that really grounded me, and it was a staple of my and still is of my self-care as self-abhyanga, self-oiling. So would love to see people come up and show up for the workshop, but I'm here and all I have recipes and the ghee recipe is also on my link tree. So best way is to get me on Instagram.
Nice. Yeah, I actually I snooped around on your website and or on your link tree, and I saw the different
Yeah.
links. So like you have like little offerings, like recipe books and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like that's wonderful. So
Yes, and if you look at my healing process overview, I my next step is to be taking, so if there are people in Florida or around the US that want to come and see me for a 5-day or an intensive bodywork course or seminar or personalized bodywork intensive, that is also available too. And that is bringing in the somatic bodywork and then the Ayurvedic treatments as well, because eventually I want everyone to be able to have this experience of the Abhyanga, of the Shirodhara. And some people come to me just for that, but typically it's best to go through the somatic body work to get to where the fascia is moving and all the waters are flowing, the channels are open, so that you can have the best experience under the Shirodhara. Because the Shiro, if you like psychedelics, the Shiro is pretty awesome. So yeah,
Oh,
excited. I love being able to share that ancient practice that I have such deep respect for. So and so honored to be sharing it and to be serving it.
that's tempting for me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like peek on your website afterwards and
Yeah,
like,
come up for some Shiro.
yeah,
Yeah, full bliss,
yeah,
full bliss body.
yeah. I'm all about the Ananda.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Margaret. It's been
Thank you, Erin.
a pleasure. And yeah, we'll have your information in the show notes for those of you who want to reach out to Margaret. She's amazing. I mean, you've heard all about her now, and like you got to see her, like feel her energy through this podcast. So if you're thinking about it, just do it, listen to your heart. And yeah, thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.